I am Joe Van Cleve, and these are Confessions of an Office Supply Junkie. Well, I've been using this note-taking method for a couple years now, pretty extensively, and you've seen me make other videos about it, but basically I'm using 2 1/4 inch wide cash register paper. This is non-thermal paper. This is regular paper, but I buy these big rolls, in multi-packs, and I've made a number of these holders over the years. I think I have an updated video coming up soon about this, but this is basically the latest iteration of this. We're not going to really cover the holder part right now, but suffice it to say that what I was doing with this was I would take notes and with that holder, and I would tear them off different lengths of pieces of paper, and I had to figure out how to bind them together. And one of the ways I was doing it was I was using an 1/8 inch hole punch, and I was ring binding them on a little clasp ring that you can open up and close up, and then I was just hanging it from my my bookshelf. And it's not a very efficient way of managing your archives of notes. And then what I started doing, I don't know exactly when it was, I'll have to go back in here, but I started not tearing off the paper, and I just started rolling it up like this as I go. So now I have this big roll of paper, and it's getting down to be where I'm getting close to the end of the paper itself, and I have to decide what I want to do with this, how to bind it. And I have this idea for turning this roll of paper into a little booklet. For instance, right there, I'm making notes for the dimensions of the book itself. I'm going to use the golden mean, the golden ratio. So 2 1/4 inches on the narrow side, it would be about 3.6, 92 millimeters, say, on the long side. I'm going to use a fanfold technique. So I'm going to take the roll of paper and I'm going to kind of fold it back and forth on itself, crease it so the long side is 92 millimeters, and then I'm going to try binding it in kind of a little book form. And I've never really done bookbinding before. I'm just going to use white glue and some scraps of cardboard and maybe some scraps of cloth and see what I can do to getting this roll of paper from a serial scroll into like pages of a book for archiving purposes. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just reverse rolling the scroll back to the beginning so I can start folding it into 92 millimeter long sections. Let's see, oh, it was April of 2018, it looks like, through the end of September. That's kind of cool. So I'm using my paper trimmer as a kind of a reference. I have the guide set to 3 5/8, which is pretty close to 92 millimeters. And then I'm doing the paper fold, the creasing right at the cutting edge here. And then I'm making sure the paper stays parallel, stays straight. But I just kind of go back and forth like this with it. These folds are not exactly the same length, but that'll give it what we would call an organic quality, which is another way of saying I'm being sloppy. Okay, we're almost down to the end of the scroll here, and what I did when I tore off this roll of paper from the holder is I gave myself extra allowance so that I would have an even. And you know what, I might just go ahead and fold another page. Maybe I can put an addendum or something on the end of that. And so now it goes from the first page all the way through to the last page, and then this top edge is going to be the edge that's going to get bound. I've tried to even out the folded edges as much as I can, and I'm using these wooden craft sticks and wood clamps to try to clamp them together tightly. So now I want to use some PVA glue, which is essentially white glue, wood glue. Elmer's glue is one brand in the US. I'm using an old brush just because I don't want to use my good brushes, but I want to brush this glue on nice and even. Note to self, use a good brush. You don't want to glue on the sides of it, only on the top edge. And let's let that dry. Okay, well, it is sufficiently dry. I'm going to put on a second coat. So because these leaves, these folds weren't perfectly even, I'm putting a little bit of extra glue on here with the idea of filling up the gaps. Okay, let that dry. Then we'll probably make a third coat afterwards. Well, so I need to cut some cardboard covers that are a little bit bigger overall. So the length of it, the covers, is going to be about 3 7/8, and the width will be about 2.5. So I got some 2.5 wide strips here. 3 7/8. It's not perfectly flat, and I'm going to have to put some cloth, cut a strip of cloth and glue it to it, and hopefully that'll work. Some of the pages don't quite grip the glue, but most of them do. But they're fanfold. It's a continuous strip of paper, so none of them are going to actually fall out, which is kind of cool. Well, what you're supposed to do if you're real crafty is you're supposed to have some real pretty fabrics to use to cover the thing with, and of course I don't have any such fabrics, so I'm using these shop rags, which are, I think they're a cotton blend. So we're going to have shop rag bound booklet here, so I have to cut out a piece. Okay, so with the two covers sandwiched on the thing, I want to measure the thickness of this for the spine. And it looks like it's going to be about 7 millimeters. Okay, so here's the two cover boards and the little spine board that's going to connect them together. Okay, so here is my piece of fabric for the spine. It's about 2 3/16 wide, just like a 1/16 inch narrower than the paper itself, and it's 1 inch over on each side, plus about 1/4 inch for the spine. So I need to glue this to the end papers, the beginning and ending of the stack papers here. And I'm painting on the glue, making a big mess on my cutting board here, but hey, that's part of the fun of it. I just want to make sure there's glue on all parts of the fabric. And then, let's see about this here. And fold it over, and I want to make sure the spine gets glued in there. I guess I'm going to let this dry here. So now we've switched to school glue. We're going back to school with the glue because we're pretty much out of the other PVA glue. Polyvinyl acetate. Did you guys ever eat this stuff when you were in school? Like Elmer's glue? Did you guys ever eat that? Your kids are eating polyvinyl acetate. So I'm going to try to glue on the cover, the cloth, glue the cloth to the cover, and we'll see how that works. I think I'll just use a scrap of cardboard to spread the glue around. Got to make sure it goes all the way out to the edge though, because you don't want the fabric coming loose. Of course, we're going to wrap it hopefully around there. And so what you want to do is give about 2 thicknesses of the cardboard of a gap between the spine and the cover pieces. So you have to figure out what 2 thicknesses is. Something like that, and make sure it's pretty close to being centered on the other piece. Yeah, it sure helps to have fresh glue, man. Okay. Polyvinyl acetate. It doesn't really sound very healthy to eat, does it? Like when you're like a 3rd grade, you didn't have your breakfast, you're kind of hungry, you just slip a little bit of that on your finger and take a nibble at it. And okay, so try to get this glued down. You want at least an inch all around. We got plenty of room there. And so I'm marking a 1-inch border around the cardboard cover for the overlap so I can fold over the fabric. Now I'm going to glue the long sides down. Keep in mind that I don't really know what I'm doing, and so if you're interested in bookbinding, you should probably just go to some website that knows what the heck they're doing. And I'm just winging it here, just having fun with it, because you know, it's just a roll of paper with notes, and anything I do is going to be better than nothing, right? Okay, let's see if we can fold these over. And get this cloth kind of smoothed out. We're just going to have fun with it here. See if we can get these end pieces. And yeah, see, bookmaking is a long and fabulous craft and art that goes back over 1,000 years or more. That's not what this is. This is just kind of winging it with some cardboard and some t-shirt rags and household school glue. But you know, we're having fun with it. I'm sure there's real bookbinders out there that are cringing right now, but there you go. Just gonna let that dry. Well, it's the next morning and I've let this dry, so what I have is the booklet itself with the cloth on the spine is all dried now, and it opens like that. And then my little cotton rag covered cardboard hardcover is like that, and it's going to fit in there like that. So what I need to do is do the end papers that connects the first sheet to the cover. And if I was a crafty person, I would have like drawers full of marbled end papers like you see on other crafty shows on YouTube. But this is not a crafty show. This is just me trying to figure out how to do it. So what I do have is some parchment paper. And I think this parchment paper is heavy enough to operate as an end paper. And I think this might look pretty good as an end paper inside here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these to size and then glue them up. 2 1/4. I like to use a straight edge when I'm doing this. 7 1/2. To put this end paper on, I want to put the glue on this side and up here, but I don't want to get any glue on the spine part right here. I want the spine to float. Okay, so the glue is on the first page. Now what I'm going to do is try to put the glue on only this page here, and in order to keep me from spreading it too far, I'm going to put this down like that. I need to get it all the way out to the edge. Now the trick is getting it lined up. So the book, I keep getting glue on my hands. I'm going to have to center it and go like that with it. Let's see here. All right, some wax paper. Stick it in there like that. Okay, turn the book over and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, I got some scraps of wood here. Just gonna okay, I'm gonna let it dry, see what we get. Well, I've given it some time to dry here, and now let's unclamp it. So, it's a cute little cloth-covered booklet, and there's our end papers, and there's the start of the book. And all the book is just my random notes that I used this for. And an obvious question would be, why would you want to archive these? Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting, just conceptually as a book, the idea of random note-taking as a book. Here's a test I did of focus breathing on manual focus lenses. So this is where when you adjust focus between infinity and close, does the picture get bigger and smaller as you focus? That's called focus breathing. Supposedly that's a negative attribute of a video lens, but anyway, I was testing out some of my lenses, and it looks like all of my lenses focus breathe, because I don't have a cinema lens. But anyways, so this is a kind of neat feature about this booklet, is that when you get to the bottom of a page, if the writing goes over to the next page, you can kind of open it up like that and continue it, and then it closes down as a regular page, continues like that. So I think if I'm going forward with this with my paper roll holder in the future, which I've already started dating the top of it now, if I'm going forward with it, I think what I'm going to do is probably try to make division lines, perhaps, that are more even to what I think the book is going to be in the future. And maybe try to keep them in page format, although I do kind of like the way they wrap around sometimes. But it's kind of organic and unplanned. But it's kind of cool having transformed a continuous tape of paper, like a scroll, like what we can imagine papyrus scrolls might have been used in ancient Egypt or whatever, bookbinding it into pages without cutting the scroll. It's still a continuous scroll. It's just now fan-folded into a book format. And yeah, I agree that my bookbinding technique is very crude and primitive, and any of you guys out there could probably do a better job than I did, and this is the first time I've ever done bookbinding. But I was sufficiently impressed with, even as the lack of skill that I have, how nice it looks when you put one of these into a little book form, a hardcover book. It's pretty easy. I think I'm going to try this again. I don't know what I'm going to do with the cover as far as a title. I should have thought about this before. Like, I could have printed the fabric with some kind of fabric dye, or silk screened, or I don't know, jelly printed some pattern on it, but I don't know. I'm going to have to do something here. Maybe I'll stick on some glue-on letters, or just leave it like this. Well, this is Joe Van Cleve, and this is the first time I've done this. Made a hardcover little book out of a roll of adding machine paper that was used for note-taking, and I guess I'm going to start doing this now with all my other adding machine note rolls, keeping them intact, and making a kind of a historic record of your note-taking. Oh, this is the 6 months from April to September of 2018. 6 months worth of note-taking in here, and a lot of it is just stuff that nobody else cares about, but it's sort of represents a history, my own personal history of my note-taking. I kind of think it's kind of cool. All right, this is Joe. Hope you got something out of this. Try it yourself. It's really easy. See you later. Have a good day.